Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 28 of Get Out of the Rat Race RUT. Sorry, just adjusting my today Facebook's going to be, nope, not going to throw it out there. Facebook's going to be wonderful. Sometimes it's a little temperamental. I'm Beth Campbell, by the way, career coach and mentor, former corporate captive, and now helping you find your work wonderland. If you need someone to guide you one-on-one through a career or life challenge, please send me a message or go to bethancampbell.com/coachme. Thank you so much for being here. If you are watching live on this early Saturday morning, let me know you're here in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, give me a hashtag replay. And of course, if you have any questions or feedback, also let me know as well. I'm going to make sure I've got my comments showing here. Not likely on a Saturday morning, especially all of you folks who are recovering from Helene, the hurricane/tropical storm that ran through most of the eastern, southeastern, and some of the northeastern part of the United States yesterday. We are in good shape. We have power and mostly just a lot of torrential rain, and we are bone dry in the basement. So thank you, universe, because a lot of people aren't. Anyway, doing good. You're going to have a great day. Husband and I are going to be visiting the Virginia distillery today. So looking forward to that. Today, I'm not going to be talking about distilleries, though. I'm going to be talking about the back to work dilemma, aka like, why can't I work from home, right? We're going to talk a little bit about the whole working from home thing. We all know the story, right? During COVID, hundreds of thousands of people were sent home, most of them gladly, from what I hear, to keep the world running during a pandemic, right? 3 years later, companies start now mandating that employees report back to the office. Most of them part-time, for some, a few full-time, but mostly part-time. Now it's late 2024, and even though the majority of people in poll after poll after poll said that they want to work at home, either part or full-time, companies are now doubling down and requiring their employees to report back full-time, even when, in some cases, they made promises to employees during COVID that they could work from home permanently. I don't know. I guess, did they just think it was going to go on forever and we were just never going to recover? I don't know. So there are a lot of reasons why companies say, and some that they don't say, but some that they say that they're requiring people to report back to the office. So here are the top reasons, according to the so-called experts, right? Or just in general, this is what companies are saying or people are reporting. Number one, they need a certain number of butts in seats for tax purposes. So maybe they promised their municipality butts in seats for the commerce. Butts in seats might pay more in taxes, so there could be pressure from a government entity like a city. And that was the case at my first job. The city tax requirements are, don't quote me on this because I may be wrong, but at the time I believe it was, if you work within the city limits, you pay a 0.5% tax. So everybody who was in our headquarters, which was in the downtown, paid a 0.5% tax. And for my company, there were, I don't know, 3,000 people, so just in taxes alone, they could have been looking at, $1 million, not to mention, there were incentives. If you lived within the city limits, which you might do if you had to work within the city limits, then you also pay another 0.5%. So there's an additional benefit to having butts in seats. Okay, number two, real estate. And this is sort of tied to tax incentives as well. Companies have invested in long-term real estate, commercial office space, right? And if this spaces go unused, it might be difficult to justify the expensive. Sometimes they've gotten tax incentives from their local government to purchase or rent space in certain areas. So there's an obligation there to provide, again, for whatever reason, for taxes, for commerce, building up a downtown, etc. My favorite one, there is a perception or a claim of loss of productivity, which I'm just going to say that's just bullshit. We can just relabel that when the company doesn't trust you and leave it at that. As a manager for 14 years, I had almost my entire team working part-time remote years before COVID. Schedules that I fought for, by the way, if I may just, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but toot toot. And then I had a fully remote team before, during, and after COVID at my last job. Never had an issue with productivity. Or if I did, I just addressed it like I would any other productivity issue in the office, which, by the way, tons of people who took long breaks, frequent breaks, and I'm talking like, 3 1-hour breaks plus lunch, or I'm down in the cafeteria for an hour every day. Nappers, yeah, chronic serial nappers, solitaire players, internet surfers, gabbers. I mean, please. So the whole productivity thing just really gets my goat, right? And then you factor in things like commutes, disruptions, and having to take time off work for repair people or sick kids. If you work in an office, that's all productivity loss. So I just call bullshit. I was more productive working at home because I was set up. If somebody needed help after hours, I was ready to do so. Yeah, so that's just a bullshit. That's crap. Other reasons that I've heard: culture, like claims that being in the office helps with morale, productivity, it's a better culture. And I contend that in 90% of the cases, this is just crap. And I'll explain the other 10% later. Collaboration. Okay, so I worked for 7 years straight, fully remote, as a manager with a fully remote team. Never had any issues with collaboration, at least no more than I did when I was in an office. By the way, when I worked in an office for 16 years, we often had collaboration calls on phone or video because the teams were not all together. They weren't in the same building. They weren't in the same, sometimes even in the same country or continent in some cases. And if you ever hear this from your company, that it's, that collaboration is better when you're together, and they use an offshore or an outsourced company that doesn't report to the office, then you know that that's just bullshit. I mean, it's bullshit anyways, but that's just even more like, are you for real? Bringing back people to the office is a mask for pending layoffs. This one I do believe. Some companies, they need to cut headcount, so they force everybody back in because they know a certain percentage, they'll just leave. They're just done. And then they don't have to pay severance. They don't have to pay unemployment. So that one I do think is has some validity. They bring people back because they're not comfortable managing remotely. I believe that this is probably true, but my answer to this is, poor baby. This is just another BS reason that they lump under productivity. If you're not comfortable managing, you know what? Discomfort is the gateway to growth. So get comfortable managing remotely. It's not hard. Believe me, I've done it. Many other people have done it. The people making the decision, the executives usually, prefer to work in the office, so they just make everybody do it too. They don't give a shit about you, and they know productivity isn't the issue. They just want you to do what they want you to do. Probably some validity to this one too. So those are just some of the reasons, some of the bigger reasons why people are saying that they're mandating back to work. I do want to make it clear, I'm not saying that everybody has to work from home. I love remote working, but I'm not suggesting that everybody who can work from home should work from home. What I'm passionate about and what I fight for is choice, always choice. In spite of what you might think with all of the evidence in favor of working remotely, not everybody prefers it. And as I said earlier, a lot of polls I see they are swayed heavily towards remote and hybrid as favorites. Hybrid meaning you would work part-time in the office and part-time remote, but there are still a lot of people who enjoy being in the office full-time. So let them work in the office and let the rest of the people who happily kept shit running from their dining room table with their homeschooled kids running around during the stress of a fucking major pandemic for 3 fucking years, let them work where they want to work. Let the people who today, in some companies, are keeping shit running, working from home after hours and on weekends for on-call shifts when shit breaks down, let them just do that during the working hours too. Okay, so all that being said, I do think that there are instances when it is better to work in an office environment, even if you can work from home. And don't come at me, bro. Don't come at me, bro. I feel like I have legitimate reasons for this. So I believe that some people are served better in a full-time office environment, or at least a part-time office environment, and that is new or inexperienced employees. So think recent college grads or people who are brand new to an industry, or this is maybe the first job they've ever had. And I say this because I've worked with a lot of inexperienced new grad types in my 14 years as a manager. And 9 of those years, I worked with fully or partly remote teams. There is an advantage, world according to Beth, right, to having really fresh, green minds work together in person with other senior members in it, like an office setting. This could be a big office or a local hub that's temporary. And I say this because I've witnessed a lot of behaviors in inexperienced employees that either could have been prevented by working temporarily with others, or that are exacerbated by not working in a work social construct. Things like struggles with failure and discomfort and difficult change, especially the people coming out of COVID, right? It just sucked for everybody. Not having more opportunities to be in situations that will help them be more comfortable being uncomfortable. So it's easy to be anonymous or hidden when you're at home, right? You're just not in those situations. Not understanding the nuances of team interaction. So seeing how people interact in meetings and gatherings, not just on a Teams call, on a camera at their desk. You observe things that are going on around you, and it's different from school and it's different from home, and you learn a lot by doing that. And then some inexperienced employees have this idea, this comes from fear and discomfort, aversion to discomfort. They have this idea that their coworkers are not collaborating or asking questions or seeking help, and therefore they shouldn't be asking questions. They should just figure it out and know everything. And again, that's a kind of a fear of failure thing. In an office, they would plainly see and hear that everybody asks question, and even the most senior people seek help, right? And I think it just helps to navigate with like the workday in general. There's an element of peer influence. So you see people coming and going. You see who takes too long on breaks and what the impact is. You see people being helpful versus being a dick. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that you can really glean from being in the office. So while I would absolutely stop short from requiring new inexperienced people from reporting to an office full time, I think we're remiss if we don't have them in an office social construct part-time for a period of time. Once they've had some experience, then hey, give them the office to the choice to work from home, either in the office or at their home desk full time. So that's just my world according to Beth. Okay. All right. So let's sum this up a little bit. People who can work from home should have the choice to do so. Early career, inexperienced, new grad types probably benefit from being in an office setting at least part-time for a period of time. And the reasons that companies are mandating people back to work are mostly bullshit. Money and weak leadership is basically at the root of all of it. So what did I miss for those of you who have been mandated back to work? I know a lot of you have thoughts about working from home, so let me know in the comments or send me a DM. I might be able to address them in one of the last 2 sessions. Boo-hoo. Oh, only 2 left. 2 left. It has been so fun and so enlightening for me to be able to kind of flesh out some of these thoughts that I have about how to make our lives and our work lives better. All right, no comments here. Tomorrow we're going to talk about the job hunt shit show. With so many people looking for work, struggling, the job hunting process being such a mess, job postings being such a mess, I could not do an episode about this. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. All right. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And if you're on YouTube watching the replay, please like and subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you for joining Get Out of the Rat Race Rut. You're here because you're a badass. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I'll see you tomorrow.